Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to A Backwards Glance. I'm Sid Mickle, and it's time to share a few more stories from our Southern upbringing. As you can notice, I'm wearing my Camp Helen shirt today. It's probably the second most important old location in my mind and my heart, actually. But the one we're going to talk about today is Tomlinson's Pool. And if you grew up in and around Lafayette or anywhere near Chambers County, you probably remember that fantastic spot. The place was owned by Mr. Jack Tomlinson. And funny story about Mr. Jack, a thought that I have. Until I was an adult, I never saw Jack Tomlinson in anything other than a swimsuit, typically a white, floppy Gilligan-style hat, and no shoes. He was always at the pool, manning the lifeguard tower, the concession stand, taking up collection of admission, or busy working on the pool, washing the sides, pool deck down, cleaning the pool. He was a wonderful man and a huge part of most of our childhoods. Well, he had two sons, Nick Tomlinson and Terry Tomlinson. Nick and I played football together on the very first Chambers Academy football team. He was a tough kid. Not too outward, not a lot of words from Nick. But when he said something, people typically paid attention to it. His older brother, Terry, I didn't know so well. He was more in my sister, Tony's generation. But he's always very nice to me, very good to me. And those two boys were incredibly talented athletes, and they showed it off at the pool quite often. They were the envy of most of us who couldn't dive, who couldn't swim, who couldn't perform the things that they did at Tomlinson's Pool. Now, one other thing, my good friend Sandy Martin is putting together a story, basically a history of Tomlinson's Pool, and I hope to share that on this channel, his story, later on. Today, we have some early photos of the place and some photos I took not very long ago of how it sits today. But let's get on with a couple of stories. When I was young, I was dropped off by family or friends. Miss Frances Hill would often drive three or four of us, including my cousin Bob, to the pool. We would have about 50 cents, maybe a quarter. We could pay our admission, get in, and maybe buy a frozen Zero bar. You've never lived until you spent a hot day swimming in the pool and enjoyed that kind of treat when you took a break. They had great hamburgers in the concession stand they built later on. Just to the right of the concession stand was the dance hall. It's the place I remember going to first at Tomlinson's with my two older sisters. Money going in the jukebox, my sisters dancing and other teenagers dancing. It was the spot. It was the happening in town. As I got older and became more familiar with the pool and friends joining there and swimming, it is a memory that just does not leave me. Every time I, and most of you, every time we drive by that location on Highway 431 North, just north of town, we slow down. We either turn hard left or hard right, trying to get a glimpse of the old blue walls of the pool. Not much left anymore, but that base outline of the pool in the winter can still be seen occasionally. Seen fairly well. Maybe we'll get up there and do some close-up filming if we can get permission and give you an update on exactly how it is today. Back then, I would ride up with either friends or family, enjoy a day's swimming. That pool was spring-fed, if I'm not mistaken. And at the shallow end of the pool was a big water tank that they obviously kept more water to fill it up as it lost water. If you stood under the pipe that stuck out of that thing, you better be really hardy because that water was freezing cold. And that's one of my best memories. That tank, the rope that divided the deep and the shallow end, the high tower and the diving board are the things that I remember so very well there. Now, an incident happened early on when I was a kid. I guess I was probably old enough to ride my motorcycle. And one of the really beautiful young girls from town, in my mind, the most beautiful, she was there a lot. Uh, I just thought she was awesome, and I really wanted her to notice me, as any young boy would, I think. So I overheard her with some of her girlfriends one day say her favorite song was by Chicago, and that song was 25 or 6 to 4. Well, I knew that song and I liked that song. And since it was Beverly's favorite, I made my way to the jukebox in the dance hall, and I put my 5 nickels that I had gotten change for from Mr. Jack, and I played 25 or 6 to 4 5 times in a row. The unfortunate thing is, I don't think she even noticed. she certainly did not notice me and really never did. But anyway, that was one of my favorite memories of being a kid in that coming of age time. We were there every week, multiple times a week, because it was safe, it was well maintained, and Mr. Jack and his 2 sons watched after and watched over everyone. The dressing rooms were in an L shape with the ladies behind the high tower and the boys on the far side, just off the diving board. That diving board was worn out by a lot of people, some of them performing really nice stunts, some of us not so well. It was not my thing, but I enjoyed it and I had fun there. My cousin Bob and I, we were constant companions and we were constantly at Tomlinson's pool. Well, one day I heard a conversation about learning how to do a flip off the high tower. And the person I heard it from again happened to be this beautiful young lady, Beverly. She and her friends were talking about doing flips, and I wasn't really eavesdropping. We were sitting around the same area. Nobody was whispering. It was well known. And several of the girls, including her, went up the high tower and did a flip, a forward flip off the high tower. And you'll see in some of the pictures I throw up here. Maybe I'll throw one in of that place right now. If you can tell that, it's probably a good 12, 14 feet high. I would guess that. And I think in that picture was the original. It seems like to me there was another one that was built later on. It was high. And when you got up there, it seemed like it was 100 feet in the air, especially to me. So, I was up there and jumping off, and I happened to just mention to my cousin Bob, I really wish I could learn how to do a flip off the high tower. Well, instead of me overhearing, Beverly, overheard that. And she said immediately to me, maybe the first word she ever spoke to me was, I can teach you how to do a flip off the high tower. Let's go. Oh my God, I was taken. I was excited. I was ready to learn. Up the steps we went to the high tower, and boom, off that she went. Perfect flip, perfect entry in all her absolute magnificence. She comes back up, climbs the ladder, and she's standing there. She's explaining to me how to jump, tuck, make sure I keep my balance and hit with my feet and just go straight in. Okay, I've got it. I'm ready. I'm ready to impress this beautiful young girl. I'm going to show her what an athlete I am. I can see my cousin Bob kind of on the sidelines. He had that look of like, I don't know about this. Well, it came that time, and I'm telling you, I was in it. I was dead serious. Got my breath, got to the end where the little carpet strip was on the high tower, got up my courage, and off I went. Everything went incredibly well 3/4 of the way through. Because 3/4 is the only amount of flip or roll that I did. My cousin Bob said, you hit the water like a leaf, flat of your back. I'm not even sure you went underwater. I can tell you that I remember the stinging, burning pain and the overwhelming embarrassment that I felt, because as I came up and swam to the side, off she came and immediately went back over to her friends. She had no more time to spend with a complete failure like me. Well, I couldn't deal with it. I went over to the ice cold tower to get some cold water on my back, conferring with Cousin Bob. And to his credit, he said, "You can't end it like this. You can't let this be the end of your attempt. You got to go do it." Boy, I didn't want to do anything like that. I wanted to be done with it. But up the steps I went to the high tower, and off again I went. Well, this time I did pretty much, as he said, a perfect forward flip. I came down, I popped back up, I go to the sideline. He's running over and he goes, "You did it, you did it, it was great." Beverly hears this conversation and said to me, "You did it? I didn't get to see it. Go do it again." There was nothing in the world I wanted to do less than climb those stairs and attempt another forward flip. But what was I to do? I couldn't disappoint her. I'm telling you, it was a long climb up those steps and my heart was pounding. So I screwed up my courage and I got to the edge, and off the high tower I went again. Second time in a row, perfect entry, pop up. It was so stunning to me. There were no words. There was no congratulations. There were no shout. She said, "Yeah, you did it," and immediately turned back to her friends. The outcome was the exact opposite of what I had hoped, dreamed, and planned for. But life was like that. My cousin Bob comes over and I get out, and I remember sitting on the side of the pool and thinking, I don't understand girls at all. And I'm done. I'm finished with this. I proceeded to go dry off, put on some shorts, shirt, got on my bright blue Honda 90 and drove away. That was my most memorable moment at Tomlinson's pool. Now, I know a lot of you have incredibly good memories of that place, and all my memories, even that one, is really good. And there's so many of them. We spent hours and hours every summer there. It was a beautiful place, so perfectly manicured all the time. If Mr. Jack wasn't washing the pool down, he was on a lawnmower cutting that grass. And that U-shaped road that you had to come down, a gravel road that you could park behind and a few cars could park in the front, and overlook that beautiful concrete pool in its bright blue setting. It was fantastic. I wish there was some way we had film. Maybe someone has an old movie. Maybe stored away, it exists. I would give just about anything to see that place and those people that I truly cared about and that really cared about me. One other side from this, later on, after some other life struggles, I was in Auburn living there in an apartment and ran into my friend Nick Tomlinson one day. We visited, caught up a little bit, and he said, "Hey, let's get together and play some cards sometime." And I said, "Hey, come to my place. I'm over at Kingsland Court. I'll be glad to have you." Nick and a couple of friends came over and we started this habit of once a week getting together and playing hearts. Without a doubt, the only time I've ever played cards consistently in my life. And he and I became pretty good friends during that. And we talked about everything from the pool. All our friends, we talked about football and we talked about our lives together. I really liked that guy. And unfortunately, his life ended very, very early in a tragic accident at his home after years of serving as a detective in the Houston Police Department. But my memories won't be of a sad nature with Nick Tomlinson. They will always be of this incredibly great athlete, strong, tough kid who I got to know really well and became friends with. Let me know what your memories are about Tomlinson's pool. I'm sure you've got some. We'll try to get up there and do that filming soon. But until then, I hope this has been interesting. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.